us today.
Thank you, Chairman Parker. We appreciate being here.
Well, we are going to get started. I think that we've been doing this long enough now that everybody kind of gets the drill. But what I'd like for you to do is if you take a moment to introduce your colleagues that you have with you there at the table, and please go ahead and start at your leisure.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Board of Governors. Thank you, Chancellor, for having us today, giving us this opportunity to get you more familiar with the University of West Florida out in the western part of the panhandle of our state. With me today is my provost, Chula King. To her left is our Board of Trustee Representative, Marnie Galuli. And to my right is the President of our Student Government, Josh Findlay. And to start us off this afternoon, Trustee Galuli is going to begin.
Thank you, President Pence. Good afternoon. I am Marnie Galuli, the Finance Committee Chair of the University of West Florida Board of Trustees and also a proud alumna. I'm very pleased that we are here to present West Florida's work plan as approved by our board. I've been a member of the Board of Trustees since 2003, and I also serve on the Foundation Board, so I'm very involved with the University of West Florida, even though I live in Washington, D.C. As a point of reference for the University of West Florida, we are located in the far northwest corner of the state, the only Florida public university in the Central Time Zone. The schools which recruit heavily in our region are from one of the 4 nearby states. With the exception of FSU and Florida A&M, our students in our region are closer to institutions in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And they're closer to that than any other Florida public institutions. Geography definitely has an impact on the University of West Florida and its mission. And I'm now going to turn the program over to President Bentz, and she will explain this more fully.
Thank you, Trustee Galuli. One of the things about Northwest Florida is that it has certain characteristics. First of all, we have about a 175-mile wide region that we serve. On the other hand, we have the lowest population density of the state. Of Florida's 18.8 million people, we only have 1 million. And I will say that our economy and the amount that people make is lower than any other place. We're relatively poor, we're relatively agrarian, and we are very different from the rest of the state of Florida in that way. And as Trustee Galuli said, the nearest Florida university is Florida State in Tallahassee. Our campus, on the other hand, is also a little bit different. We have 1,600 acres in Pensacola. We have on the main campus. We also have 150 acres on the beach on the Gulf of Mexico, which today has got a lot of oil on it. This particular situation in Northwest Florida with the oil is in our backyard. It is in our bays, it's in our sounds, it's on our beaches, and it's on your beach property that the University of West Florida has custody of. We also have something called the Emerald Coast, which is in Fort Walton Beach, the star to the right. And it is really a network of academic centers. We have several, many are military related, but it is, that is our branch campus, if you will. It's more like a cluster of centers. The next thing I'd like to let you know is that we have 11,200 students now. We have grown greatly in the last year. We've grown by 7%, and we anticipate growing that much more next year. Of our 11,200 students, 90% come from Florida. And of that 90%, 83% come from the Panhandle. Another thing that we are very proud of is that we are a wildlife sanctuary. This is really not taken from my office, but it kind of could be. It is very close to my office. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. We are on swamps and rivers that lead to the head of Pensacola Bay. I'd like to share with you some of the things that make us different at the University of West Florida. One of the things is our assets is historic Pensacola Village. It is a driver in economic development that really is its function in the community. We have, in year 2000, all of the former state-owned historic, they're still owned by the state, but the Historic Preservation Board historic properties rolled into the University of West Florida. They rolled in with their money and their staff, no more, no less. And in the last 10 years, they have never been in better shape. This is really, we own 22 historic properties downtown. We do all of the third, fourth, fifth graders museum tours. Wonderful colonial and early American history is preserved in downtown Pensacola, as well as some drop-dead archaeology, which I've really enjoyed exploring with our folks. I will tell you that the historic Pensacola Village has been one of the saviors of downtown Pensacola, and it is very important to our town. The second thing, special asset, is marine archaeology. There are only 3 universities in the entire country that even do underwater or marine archaeology. And we are the only one that include our undergraduates in the program in terms of getting out in the field. Right now, today, in Pensacola Bay, our students are diving and learning in their archaeological field school on a 1559 wreck that sunk in a hurricane, and it is one of Tristan de Luna's 2 wrecks that we have discovered and are sharing with our students and the public in Pensacola. These shipwrecks are fantastic. The water is terrible. You can't see anything, which is why they're preserved. But we have learned to dive and to do research in murky waters. The third thing I want to share with you is our athletics. We are the only one of the state universities that are Division II, or that is Division II. We're not Division I. I'm doing an athletic visioning process right now, and we have decided to stay Division II because we like the fact that they're students first and athletes second. The GPA of the athletes is higher than the GPA of the general student body, and our athletic folks are very proud of that. We are also in the process of expanding our athletic program. It is part of my focus on improving student life at the University of West Florida. We have won 54 championships and 5 NCAA national championships, but you wouldn't know it looking at our facilities. And right now today, an athletic facilities master planner is planning a route for us by which to have good Division II athletic facilities. I'm not going to show you any pictures of them. What is not pictured here is one of our centers, which is one of our assets, which is the Center for Environmental, Diagnostic, and Bioremediation. Translation, pollution. They've been working on pesticides and pollution in our bays and our bios, but all of a sudden now we're on the front line of the oil spill. Right now, today, they're out on the Bellows, the research vessel, and today their students and their research assistants are taking samples of our beaches and of our sand and our water, and they are really on the front line with this center. I'd like now to share with you a bit of our vision for the University of West Florida for the next 5 to 10 years. What we look at as a good number for us to be, as a student enrollment-wise, is 15 to 20,000 students. But what we need to do, in our opinion, is to increase the mix that we have of students at our university, not only throughout the state, but in other states. But one of the most important visions that we have is increasing student life. We want to become a more residential campus. Much like North Florida, much like Florida Gulf Coast, we are building dorms. One is opening in 6 weeks, the one on the left that you see called Heritage Hall. And it is very different. It is very collegiate looking. As President Bradshaw says, you can tell the new buildings by how tall they are, and they are. That is really what students expect. They don't like the 2-story stuff. They call it high school. And of course, we're trying to please the students, and we want to. This one is 5 stories tall. They like it a lot. And it's 75% sold, and we hope that it will sell out. And we're going to build many more residence halls. They're not dorms anymore. Residence halls in the years to come. Another thing is that we are doing in the next 5 to 10 years is we really are out there on mobile learning. And I don't mean just sitting at your computer. I mean sitting at your laptop, using your PDAs, using your iPads, all of the ways that we connect to the internet. We are really there. We have something called the Academic Technology Center, which is award-winning, national and international award-winning civilian and military awards. And we are going to continue to stay on the forefront of that. 25% of our students take courses online. That's a lot. Yes, some of them are sitting in their dorms, in their jammies, but that's all right. They have that option, and we have some very excellent courses that we've developed. But really the road ahead for us is mobile distance learning. Look down at your cell phones, look at your iPads. That's where it's going to be in the short term as well as the long term. Another thing that I want to share with you about our vision is something called the National Flight Academy. If you've ever been to Pensacola, you've probably been to the Naval Aviation Museum with all those planes hanging up. 1 million people go there a year. Well, it was a dream of Admiral Jack Fetterman to have something called the National Flight Academy, where students in the 7th to 12th grades come for 1 week of intensive training to learn what it means to be a pilot in a jet on an aircraft carrier. And so this building that you see in the front, those 2 buildings, are as high-tech as you'll get. You walk into that building and it's like you're walking onto the deck of an aircraft carrier. So what we're doing in the University of West Florida is our Advanced Technology Center are designing courses with lots of animation, lots of digital aspects to them, courses for that curriculum. Another thing is that we are part of developing aviation career academies, which are being taught by teachers that we prepare in workshops. Another thing that's important about it is that this particular National Flight Academy is really focused on disadvantaged students, workforce-related pathways, and career pathways, especially focusing on the STEM disciplines, 7th through 12th grade. 52 weeks a year. I don't know what their capacity is. I think it's 60 students, and they are beginning to sell out. One of the most important things is how high-tech it is. Now, you've all seen in the news how pilots really learn the first step in becoming a pilot is getting in an animation box. You know, we've seen it also with space in the shuttle as the pilots train. And these particular boxes are so super sensitive and so highly animated. The students think that they're in a plane. They land the plane, they have bad weather in the plane, but they're still in the box. This particular box is like as big as these displays are in the center of the seating area here. And they're going to be in high schools all over the country. This is going to grab the students 7th through 12th grade. We're working with TEQ Games and Universal Studios to build the animation that gets these students in those boxes, into that academy, and into the STEM disciplines. Who doesn't want to be a jet pilot on an aircraft carrier? Now, that's a good hook, and we're all over it at the University of West Florida. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is some of the contributions that we are making to the region. Now, those 5 stars represent all of the institutions of higher education in Northwest Florida. 4 of them are colleges. One, Gulf Coast, is still a community college. PJC is going to become Pensacola State College this summer. One of the things when I became president a couple years ago is I realized that we didn't have a corner on the higher education market in Northwest Florida. I knew what was coming with the state colleges, so I called all 5 of those presidents together and said, let's look at our common ground. Let's try to work together to make our education, higher education, better. When the 5 of us get together, we own higher education in Northwest Florida. And as long as we keep ourselves focused on those students and having our population better educated, we know what's coming. It's a knowledge-based economy. The blue-collar jobs, the construction jobs are going to come and go, but generally decrease. We want people to get a better job and to quit leaving Northwest Florida to go where the good jobs are. So, what we're doing is, one of the things we're doing is let's get some scholarships. Last summer, the 5 of us got, actually 6 with Tallahassee Community College. The coalition got $1 million for scholarships, 366 scholarships in the STEM disciplines. They're alive and well and doing fine. These kinds of scholarships are the kind of things that we can do to all 5 of us or 6 of us, depending on who we're talking about, get together. We get together regular. We know each other by first names. We're on our speed dial lists, and I can call them up and ask them, how is it raining over in Panama City? And President Meadows can call me and ask me, are you doing a lockdown? Are you shutting down because of a hurricane? This kind of communication between the 5 of us or 6 of us with Tallahassee is the kind of relationship that you really need. We don't have an agenda. We don't have a charter. We don't have anything. But we are the presidents of higher education in Northwest Florida, and we care about our region. The next thing on the right, contributions, is our new School of Science and Engineering building. We are so proud of it, we're about to bust our buttons. This is the most highest technology building in all of Northwest Florida. It is a magnet. People come just to look at it. There's a 3D animation. We call it the holodeck. My Christmas card said, Happy Holodeck. It's just a magnet for students. Enrollment and applications are up 400% in our science and engineering disciplines. These are the dry sciences. Another important thing I want you to know that we're doing, this is the beginning of it, is as you know, academic departments, all of us went to college. You have the math department over here, you have the physics department over here, you have the engineering department over here. They're in these silos. And they didn't talk to each other very much. They only liked to talk to each other. They didn't talk across disciplines. In this building you see on the right is a building where there is no math department. All the math professors are sprinkled out. The engineering professors are sprinkled out. The computer science people. There is no departmental segregation here. It is a fully integrated building. And as a capstone to that, they are, in their disciplines, they are having their students work together in a project-oriented curriculum. We all know the real world runs on projects. It's a project to get ready for this meeting. It's a project to get a new building. And we all have to involve people that are from different disciplines and different walks of life. In this building, that's going on at the undergraduate level. It's part of their curriculum and it is required. We think this is part of our vision and what we need to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years, and a contribution that we're making to the new Florida goals also, to provide students and graduates that are prepared for the workforce. The next thing is something different about our region. We have more military installations and military people and related contractors in Northwest Florida than any other region. Fort Walton Beach has Eglin Air Force Base, 500,000 acres. The BRAC process added more people, more jets, more staff, everything to Eglin Air Force Base. We are the most military-oriented region in the state. In fact, 30% of our students are military-related. 30% of 11,200 students are military-related and somehow. We have been designated as an official military-friendly campus in military magazines, both civilian and military, and that is not easy to get. We also have a special, we do a lot of things for the military, and couldn't resist on telling you this. This is an iPhone, and this is a cultural training module for the Navy that goes to Afghanistan. They are doing cultural training. They can take this off-site, and the thing about it is it's very transferable. You can do it on your BlackBerry, you can do it on your cell phone, and they complete the course. And you all know how different the Arab cultures are from us. You really couldn't get more different than that. They're not European, they're not Asian, they are Middle Easterners. And you can offend them easily just by a mistake, standing too close to them, saying the wrong word, having the wrong inflection. All of these this training module is designed to help our military. And you can see, and I won't bore you with testimonials from soldiers who say it saved their life. That to us is a very important contribution to our military at the University of West Florida. The last thing on the, not the last thing, also important to us is economic development and research. In the center photo, you see one of our small business development centers. We are the host for the Florida Small Business Center Development Network. It has to do with regional, and it helps all of our citizens in the state with helping them prepare for disasters, counseling them when their businesses are in trouble. We like to say that it covers every square inch of the state of Florida, and it truly does. Another thing that we have is the Haas Business Center. The Haas Business and Development Center is absolutely top-notch premier center that has to do with economic forecasting for Northwest Florida. Whenever Dr. Harper, the director of the center, begins to stand up and to give a presentation to the business and economic leaders in our region, it is pin drop quiet. We have had, as everyone has had, problems in what is going to come next and how bad has it been. How bad is it going to be? How bad has it been? He's got the data. He's out of the University of West Florida, and it is absolutely important. On the right is a Small Business Development Center, and there's Chancellor Brogan stepping out of something called the Mobile Assistance Center for the Small Business Development Center. And this is mobile. It's on site, unfortunately, in Pensacola Beach. And there, business owners are getting counseling on how to get insurance, on bridge loans, and how to tap into the funds, and that can help save their businesses. And it is a terrible situation. Pensacola Beach is empty. The airport was empty yesterday when I left. The restaurants are empty and closing. It is not pretty. That, right there on the right, is one of the best things we can do for our community, and we're busy
Chairwoman
doing it.
just said that's where I actually went in to fill out online the application for
No.
this job as chancellor.
No, no.
Worked
So
out
now-
okay.
That's okay.
Can attest to
We all know better. Let's talk about our work plan a little bit. The first thing about our work plan is our number one priority is increased progress towards degrees. It is right in line with your highest priority as a Board of Governors and your strategic plan, increase access and degree production. We know that we need to have greater student satisfaction. We really have not completely gotten over being a commuter two-year school at the University of West Florida, and we have got to get over it. That means we need to have students on campus, and they need to be happier. We are also targeting in our increased degree production workforce-related degrees. On the right, you see one of our students. Jody is a physics major. We have some commercials that are running on commercial television as well as cable that talk about what is important about UWF. And what she says are two things and themes that we hold dear. One is active learning experiences. They do research at the undergraduate level. They go out and they explore what physics means. And another one is personal attention from her professors. And coming from the mouth of students, that's very important. Now, another thing is something that we call career pathways. This is where the five of us presidents have gotten together and said what we need to do is to help the people in our region understand how they can improve their careers, change their careers. If they've lost their job, how they can get trained for another job. This is what I call the three-click workforce, the three-click process. There are going to be kiosks starting this fall in every high school in as many counties as we can cover. The second thing is in all the workforce development boards, a kiosk that has this as its home page. The first question is, how much time do you have? 12, 24, or 48 months. The second question is, what career are you interested in? Health, education, military, whatever. And the last click is what kind of jobs there are, how much they cost, and where you can get trained for them. This is meshing right with the workforce needs in our area. So that's really what we're doing together. We have two other goals I want to share with you. Now let me back up. That's not what I wanted to do. One is economic development. We understand that in our region, the University of West Florida and its budget and its spending really plays an important role in the economy and is an economic driver. The Haas Center for Economic Development, the Small Business Development Center, we are continuing to plus those up. And the last thing, and I don't mean last in order, just what's very important to us and part of our work plan, is to retain and recruit talented faculty and staff. And what we're doing is we're doing our best within our means, and we're doing just fine. I want to talk to you a little bit about our challenges. This is the oil coming into Pensacola Pass. This is the oil on the beaches. It is a huge challenge for us. The oil is with us, and it is not pretty. It's got everybody in Pensacola scared. That's what it's got them, is scared. You see people walking around with that look in their eyes, not just the people that are out of work, the people that know what it means for Northwest Florida. The next thing, challenges that we have are with the state colleges. We do get along, and we will continue to get along. But what we've got to do is to work out some sort of a coordination for bachelor's degrees. And I know the Chancellor is extremely on top of this, and I am all for it. I think it's overdue, and we have got to work on it, and we will pledge to you that we will work with you whatever we can do. But in the meantime, I'm holding hands with them real tight. So now what I want to do is to turn this over to Provost King and to give the next part of our presentation.
We've long had a goal at the University of West Florida of 12,000 students by 2012, and it's our expectation that we will not only meet that but exceed it. But we recognize that getting the students in the door is only one part of the equation. We need to keep them when they come, and we need to move them efficiently towards graduation. One of the things that we've done, and this is in our Division of Student Affairs, is institute a program called Delphi. It's a first-year living and learning experience for our freshman students, and we've had a 95% retention rate from that program. Next year we're going to institute Oracle, which is a follow-up with the sophomore year, and we feel that we're going to be equally successful in terms of the retention. As we build buildings, Judy spoke of the Science and Engineering building and the magnet that it is. Our next building that will be coming on that we will be building is the College of Business Education Center, and that building is being designed with the students in mind. It's not just going to be a classroom building, it's going to be a building where the students can congregate, a building where the students can meet with and interact with the faculty so that the student experience is enhanced. One of the things that you may have noticed when you looked at our work plan compared to the work plan of other institutions is that we are really not planning on offering many new degrees in the future. And the reason for that is that when the budget crisis hit, we decided to step back and to look at what we were doing before we decided on moving forward. Last year I instituted a moratorium on new programs, and the idea there is that we needed to look very critically at the programs that we were currently offering. We needed to look at how many students were actually graduating from them. We needed to look at the quality. We needed to look at the demand not only in our region but also in the state and the nation. And we needed to look forward and ask the question, are these the degrees of the future? So we're in the process of streamlining our degree offerings, and once we do that, then we will start looking forward in terms of new programs. But there are 3 programs that we are moving forward on. One is the Master of Science in Nursing, which we're going to start in the fall. The reason for that is just the huge demand that we have in our region for nurses at the master's level. We are in the process of at least talking about a program in international business management that's consistent with the globalization that's occurring and the need to ensure that our students have a global focus, and a degree in energy management, recognizing the increased importance as we move forward on the efficient utilization of energy and preparing our students to be managers and professionals in organizations with that view. As the other institutions have done, last year we were successful in instituting a 7% tuition differential. That yielded about $850,000. 30% of that went to need-based financial aid. With the rest of it, we used the money to hire faculty, to begin replacing the faculty that we lost with the budget cuts. And one of the things that we've done in concert with the stimulus funding is we use the bulk of the stimulus funding to hire visiting faculty to provide classes for our students. And as we receive the differential tuition, we are moving those visiting faculty onto full-time lines. And to me, that's a huge benefit because we truly know what we're getting, because we've had an opportunity to have these faculty in the classroom for a year or 2 years, and so we're confident that these are the faculty that we need for the future. With the closing slide, I'd like to turn this over to our Student Government President, Josh Finley.
Thank you. Now, I get to talk about the fun part that every student likes to talk about, new fees. The first thing that we have is the new student life and facilities fee. This fee is intended to enhance our student life on campus. As Dr. Ben said, that is a priority for our university, to be able to give students the real college experience that they really want. This fee will be $4 per credit hour, and then a $10 block per semester. It will be a total of 4.8% of our total tuition. So for someone who is taking 15 credit hours, they'll pay about $70. It's important for this university because, as Dr. Ben said, our facilities are not quite up to par. We are a growing university, and with the continued growth, the recruitment. To be honest, our generation is very materialistic. We like nice things. We like fancier things. So with recruitment and retention, it's very important to have newer facilities that are adequate for what the purpose is. And as for the need for it, we found out that the next CITF release will be probably not for another 5 years, so where's the money going to come from? Well, as a student, we understand that the money's not there. We understand how important it is for the burden to fall on the students in our education. So, as a side note, it's very important in my mind, the co-curricular activities as a part of college. We want to make sure that the opportunity is there for students to be able to set themselves apart from every other person when they're out there looking for a job. And that is the student life aspect. That is the co-curricular activities that students take part in. And in order for us to be able to provide them with the best opportunities, we have to have the facilities that are adequate enough for that. So in conclusion, I think that it is very important as a student for us to understand that it is our job to leave a legacy at our university. The buildings that we are in now were not paid by myself. They're paid by students before us. So in the need of something as critical as new facilities, the students understand that it is our job to leave that legacy and that we are willing to put forth the money and put forth the time and effort into this. It will also be monitored by a student fee committee that will have 8 students. I made it very clear to our vice president of student affairs that I want students to be involved in this process. It is their money and they have very willingly accepted, and we have a new committee, so students are involved extremely in this process. And as on a side note, before we end this presentation and I turn it back over to Dr. Benz, I just want to stress how important and how worried I am about the oil spill in Pensacola and the effects that it's going to have on the students. I know people within student government that are losing their jobs because the beach is no longer available. People who were making money no longer have money to make. Not only is it going to be the short-term effect, but there's a long-term effect not only on our university, but the economy in Florida. So I just wanted to stress that as a student, it is very critical, and we are extremely worried about what the effects are going to be.
Thank you, Josh. Well, board, that's our story, and we're sticking to it. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you happen to have of us.
Thank you very much, President Benz and your colleagues, for all of the wonderful information that you've shared with us about God's country and the University of West Florida. Any questions from members of the board? Governor Colson.
You mentioned the cooperation and some uncertainty amongst the colleges in your area as well as your university.
Yes.
And I'd be interested in your thoughts as to what the solution of that is. I mean, you hear people suggest, well, on the board, there's some people on the Board of Education that think we ought to be focused on K through 12, and we ought to give the community, the colleges to the Board of Governors. You hear some people say we ought to create a third system and a third board to oversee the Board of Governors. Oversee the college system. As a president, what do you think? We don't have a lot to say to the colleges right now, but what are your thoughts on what the system should be?
Well, I kind of echo several previous presidents, especially President Bradshaw. Right now, it has to be on a regional level. But if I could wave my magic wand,
Yeah.
what I would do is I would have curriculum coordination. There are certain subjects, for example, that are very expensive to deliver, that the universities are already delivering, such as the biological sciences, the computer sciences, engineering, many of the social sciences. I would take a look at the curricula, and I would match them up to see where there's duplication and where there is expense. And I would build the strengths of the existing ones at the universities. And I would perhaps consider transferring some of our programs to the state colleges. I think we need to work together in our region, much like President Genschaft was talking about each of her institutions in her system having their own specialty. But there is always going to be some overlap. So that's the first thing I do. And the second thing I do is I would take a real hard look at the workforce needs in each region and make sure that the curriculum that's offered at the higher education institution is designed for that. I mean, that doesn't mean you don't need English. Gosh knows you need to know English very well. But that's what I do. Basically, coordinating the curricula of the higher education programs in each region. It's going to be harder in the regions that are more populated, where the institutions are closer together.
But just a quick follow-up. How would you accomplish that? Would you turn the college system and create a new regulatory body for it, or would you put it into the Board of Governors? Would you keep it in the Board of Education, and just tell everybody to talk to each other? I mean, since we're not going to make you queen.
Right. No.
You're already queen. Don't listen to him.
I think a coordinating council is the best step forward. I do. I think that is a very good step forward, and I think you need to involve the provosts of all the institutions. The coordinating council with the Board of Education, the independents, for-profit and non-profit, as well as your public universities. Is who needs to be at the table first, and that's being put together right now. That's the most important first step. And the folks in that room, that four-person council, or those representatives of those four higher education entities, need to work it out, but they need to include their provosts, because they'll look at the programs, who's offering what and what the programs are. The Common Course numbering issue is a big issue. Is it the same being taught a course that's taught at a college as opposed to a university? The answer is we don't know, and I think you're on the right track.
Can I add to that?
Oh, sure.
Colleges were created originally for the workforce, needs.
Yes.
That's what it was done. Well, today it's more prestigious to offer engineering degree. So I, as a president of a college, says we have bachelor's degree, we have a 4-year degree, we have engineering degree. Mm-hmm. So what happened to the workforce program that we're supposed to have? And the other thing is that how do we keep the cost down? The reason we have the cost of colleges down is just where your cost comes out. Mostly has to do with labor, the professors and the research.
Right.
On and on and on, and for them to go out and do a 4-year degree, it's fine. I think you're right. At some levels, they could use a 4-year degree. I know in one college, it's a base need. What are the needs of the community are? Mm-hmm. I know one college used, I think, either 18 or 24 counties to show their needs. Well, within those 18 or 24 counties, there are 3 universities and 18 other colleges. They use that as their studies. And what you say, coordinating council, that's wonderful. It sounds good. What happens if you have a college president and that, in his view, he wants to be a bulldog and wants to get going, and the president of the university, that wanting to work with the college or colleges, and they just get tired of this and they just don't come to that area. I mean, there has to be something that works out, and at the end of the day, that our kids don't suffer and not being able to get their education supposed to get.
Well, it's kind of a two-part answer. First of all, the workforce has many different levels. There is the workforce that is, let's just say, middle class, where people get a good job, they're welders, they're teachers, they're nurses, they're making a good living. Where the universities can come into play, I think, is the higher tier, where it takes more knowledge to get those jobs, either taking the folks that have had that degree or are working in that workforce and plus them up, or they go to a university so that they take a degree in, like, marine biology that they usually can't get at a state college. So there are really 2 levels of the workforce. Ours is more knowledge-based, and that's really where the universities shine, and I think we always will. I think the colleges are going to, as they always have, help the folks get a college education and get them prepared in some of those areas that they can get a good job and make their lives better. But that can often be a stepping stone, which is where our graduate programs, or they don't offer programs in marine biology and the more expensive disciplines, and they go to a university. So I think there's going to be a natural segregation to meet different workforce needs. I think that's what's going to happen. And then the next step is what Chancellor Brogan's been beating the drum about, is we've got to figure out a way to organize it. We do, because the example that you cited is really terrible. It's diluting, it's wasteful, and it's duplicative. So I think that's the next big challenge for higher education in the state of Florida. But now I think the coordinating council is the way to go. I really do. I'm so glad that that passed.
No wonder our chancellor gets a big box.
Absolutely. Yes. I never thought I'd see the
That's why I'm
day.
so glad I got on that van that
Oh,
day.
let me
and
show
filled
it
out
again.
that-
I'll back up.
filled out that online application. Real quickly, I agree. I think we've got a great opportunity with the new statutorily created planning council. That is the chancellor of the state university system, the chancellor of the state college system, the commissioner of education,
Right.
the head of ICUF schools and the ICE schools, the IEC schools, proprietary schools, as well as two business people, one named by the speaker, one named by the
That's right.
president. And the idea of that group is to help us to interface more than we have in the past the different delivery systems, to create a statewide template for what do we need to do as
That's
a
right.
state, and then who's doing what to help us to get there. Governor Husseini said something that was spot on, and that is the fact that if you take, and this sounds like it's in the weeds, but to show you how important these kinds of things are because they shape public policy. When a local state college does a needs assessment of the local workforce community, they create the needs assessment. He who controls the needs assessment controls what comes out of the pipe.
Right.
And so when they say, this is exactly what our business community says we need, and you, Madam President, aren't providing this or aren't providing it to an adequate degree, so obviously we have no choice but to offer it to the business community who is demanding this. It's just one small example of how the tail is wagging the dog in this relationship, and there's nothing that beats good relationships, presidents to presidents, boards to boards, but at the end of the day there has to be an organized structure to this thing, to Governor Colson's point, or it will never work appropriately.
Right.
All you need are 5 rogue presidents in a gigantic state as big as is this one to change public policy in a way that is not perhaps in the best interest of the whole state. That's all you need. And I hope that this organized approach will give us much better delivery system communication to try to stave that
Yeah,
off.
what your presidents are doing is trying to solve it in our region and at a local level. And we each have different relationships, but basically try to keep them positive and working together. So we're kind of at the bottom, we're working together, but it really needs now to work at the top. And I think we're on the road to a solution. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to come from those 5 or 7 people that are in the room.
Governor Edwards?
I believe almost all of the universities that have presented yesterday and today have talked about, as part of their plan, to speed up graduation, increase
Yes.
graduation rates. So I'm going to assume that graduating in 4 years is a good thing, both financially and for access. With that said, a two-part question. What percentage of your students are part-time? And number two, if there was some type of financial reward, $2,500, I don't know, I'm making up a number,
Financial
to a
reward.
student that graduates in 4 years, would that help?
Huh.
Maybe the students can answer that.
We're 60% part-time?
No, it's really closer to about a third of our students are part-time being less than 12 hours. But
That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
that all of these various reports that you see are really not very meaningful, because it depends to a
Yes.
large degree on the number of full-time students that you have. But
I will tell you that there is nothing better for human beings than a good monetary incentive. I'll tell you that.
Governor Tripp?
One of our professors gives a $100 bill to everyone in his class that makes 100% on his exams. His kids study more than anybody else, and he passes them out in public. And it's a wonderful incentive. I'd be one to try it. $2,500, Josh, what would you say?
well, I don't know the number, but the concept, if it's to our advantage financially, it might be something that would certainly help.
It might be.
Governor Tripp.
President Benz, you talked about visiting faculty, and
Yes.
this is a question I'm really asking. Is there any system or anything within our university system where you could seek to bring professors from other places within our system to help change some things you want to do because you know of their expertise? Do we do that within the university system?
Do we share faculty between institutions?
Yeah.
No, not much.
Would it
They
be,
collaborate.
second question, if we figured out a way to fund visiting faculty within the system, do you think, especially for the growing colleges and whatever, and the diversity of our state, that this would be something that this board should think about to enhance the education process in the state? I mean, you know, I know there are great faculty at the University of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If you were trying to build something over there and you had the ability to have one of their faculty visit for a year, whatever, would that be helpful? Because I guess we don't do that.
Well, we do it. I was thinking literally, but in general, we share faculty all the time. Professor will take a sabbatical from one university and go to another university. Another thing is an example with the University of Florida and the University of West Florida in our engineering program. For 7 years, they helped us get started. And they had people on our campus. Our students took their courses. We worked out how to count the FTEs. And now we're independent and we're doing fine. And so we do share expertise that way between institutions. And Julie, you can think of some other ways that we do that.
Not right off the top of my head, but I think it's a wonderful idea because when you get new blood in and people with new ideas, it may not be a long-term type of proposition where you want to hire someone for whatever length of time, but I think it would be a wonderful idea, especially as I look at the situation and the degrees that we're currently offering and the degrees that probably we should in terms of changing the thinking about what we do and how we do it. I think it's a wonderful idea.
You know, they do it internationally. It's called faculty exchange, where I go to an institution and teach archaeology, and they send someone over to my institution to take my slot. And it's really quite invigorating. It might be interesting to do it on a statewide level between our universities to see who would be interested in doing that.
Who would start that? Would that be the presidents talking about the fact that it would be good for the system and then coming back to us and trying to, in the budget some way, come up sometime with funding to make it a viable program within our system?
We could poll our faculty a bit. We could gin up a statement, a little bit of description of what we're talking about and see who's interested in doing what, and I'm sure you'll get some takers. Like, let's take underwater archaeology. We're the only one that really does it. Well, some professors, our professors might want to go to St. Augustine and do, or to Gainesville, look in their lakes where there's sunken canoes. And we don't have them in Northwest Florida, and in return, their expertise in their archaeology program, we don't have a lot of palynologists. And it could enrich our students, and we could almost do it on a regular basis. I think it would be very eagerly accepted.
Governor Duncan.
Yes, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
One question, this may fall in the magic wand category, but
I wave it a lot.
If you were looking at with your capacity, I guess, and just thinking
Yes.
about the impact of the oil crisis and the fact that you're going to have an extraordinary amount of unemployed people for at least probably a somewhat long period of
Yes.
time, I guess I'm just wondering from a state program incentive, and how much capacity you have, some kind of program to get those people to change the, New Florida initiative of creating more degree programs. I mean, this may be the lemonade out of lemons, that if we could get some kind of organized thing that wasn't just using our academic expertise to help solve the problem, but was really helping transform and give these people something to do through our institutions during their downtime that would have them better prepared. I guess I kind of want to throw that out as, is there some way and some role we could play in helping that if there were resources available, it seems like it might be worth exploring if you had the capacity to take on quite a few new students.
Well, we do. We really don't know how it will affect our enrollment. I don't know how many students come to UWF for the beach, but I will tell you what we've been talking about. Josh says a lot. At any rate, one of the things we've been talking about in the last 2 or 3 weeks with our community leaders, especially in businesses who are all scratching their heads and looking to the University of West Florida to help them do something. One of the things that we do at a university, and we all do at a university, is generate data and we interpret that data. And we're probably as unbiased a group when it comes to data that exists in the country. And one of the problems with Pensacola and the oil spill in all of Northwest Florida is that the perception is that our beaches are black, that the fish are dying and the birds are covered with oil. That's not true. But the perception is when President of the United States comes to your town, like President Obama did, it is really bad. It's so bad, he's got to come and show the U.S. flag. And so the perception out there is terrible. So what we propose to do is to take our students as well as volunteers from across Northwest Florida and generate sites where we can test the sand, test the water, photograph the beaches, and put that information up through our chambers of commerces and also Florida's Great Northwest, and tell folks exactly what the situation is every day of the week.
And I guess just one quick follow. I guess I was kind of going a little with the whole idea of increasing your non-traditional student base of people who are residents there that aren't necessarily coming for the college experience but are finding themselves unemployed and maybe underskilled for future jobs. I guess that, I was kind of trying to think about it both from, I think they're both very important missions, but that there may be an influx of those when you were talking about, I don't know, what you used retooled or retrained kind of ideas.
Retrained, but let's take all the people who are out of work in hospitality industry right now. I mean, they're, the restaurants are empty on the beach. I think that we definitely have the capacity. One of the things that we've been able to do with the stimulus money is to meet new capacity, to increase our capacity by hiring new professors and enhancing programs. And it would take money to do that, at least for a little while, to see what goes, and if we can really retrain them to have more of a stable occupation.
Well, real fast, one of the things where I think there's great room for collaboration, and Governor Duncan and I were talking about this at a break before, is on the issue of the development of distance learning capability.
Oh, yes.
The idea that each university should be responsible for developing exclusively its own online capability is, in my humble opinion, short-sighted. We have this army of genius out there in the various disciplines, and to suggest that everybody has to develop their own when if you pooled the people and thus the resources, you could create a world-class undergraduate online program in engineering or biology, whatever it happens to be, it just makes good sense. It doesn't mean that you can't create marketable, high-quality programs with a university brand on it, but to do it across the board in all disciplines and to do it at each university, I just think it's a bit stifling.
I agree.
Governor Martin?
Just to follow up, President Benson, on your statement just made about sampling the sand at various beaches. Dr. Beach, there's a person, I think this...
He's at FIU.
At FIU. Does it make sense for us to develop a process whereby we can, throughout the system, go out and test the sand and have him to market that or put it on his website, because he annually ranks the beaches throughout the world.
Right.
But use this as an opportunity to say, look, the
That's
beaches
a good idea.
are fine.
I'd forgotten about
and we need
that.
to do something to make sure that the message gets out. So maybe, staff could work with, the various universities to see how we can make this happen.
I've forgotten he ranks the beaches. That's right. We're going to fall off the list if we don't watch it.
Dr. Solano, can you just state your question? Because
I don't really have a question. I just want to come over and get a chance to be in the flight box.
Oh, yes. They're fantastic. Yes, I've seen a demo.
And the one question that I have, of the state colleges that are in West Florida, do any of them have residence halls?
Chipola College has a small one for their athletes. That's all. But they are planning them.
Okay. I guess my concern is, and this is more of a global question, is with the state colleges planning residence halls, it is suggesting that that their plans are way beyond just meeting whatever the regional needs may be in their communities. Who's going to regulate that for them?
Well, of course, they all fall under the State Board of Education, but I think those are exactly the kind of discussions. Right. That's a symptom, residence halls. I mean, you're right on, it's a major symptom, but it's a clear symptom of no statewide plan for this. That institution or another institution made a unilateral and individual decision to totally change not only the scope of their institution, but thereby change the entire face of higher education in the state of Florida.
Yes.
That sounds like a melodramatic statement. It's not. We have got to move toward an integrated system. If people are making major policy decisions without even organizing it on the greater side, we're going to continue to change this thing piece by piece. I've said this, that the Pappas report came out now how long ago? 4 years ago? Perhaps 4 years ago. And while we've continued to talk about what's in it, higher education has changed totally right under our noses.
Right.
Without anyone firing a shot, higher education looks dramatically different today than it did 4 years ago. We've got to re-engage. We've got to get people pulled back together and develop a statewide plan for higher education and move away from individually based public policy decisions in education that are affecting the entire state of Florida without even interfacing with the entire state system of higher education. I'm talking now not just universities, but all of higher education.
Yeah, we get a letter.
Madam
30 days.
And how they do it is that they're bypassing the whole system by bringing in investors from outside, giving their land, the state land, and so you go ahead and build it, and we guarantee you we'll send you the students. So they guarantee the students, they give their land, and what they are proud of is that after 40 years, we get the land, we get the land gets gifted. Well, the reason those contractors do that is because they don't want to pay any real estate taxes. So if somebody doesn't pay 40 years of real estate taxes, there is no present value to that. So you're right. Why would you build residential hall if you are a workforce? So that's something that really need to be looked at.
That's an interesting comment because I would assume that PICO would be, and I know that the red card is up. But, and I'll just stop right there. Thank you very much,
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much.
With that, I'm going to ask for the University of Florida to please come up to the front table. Okay. I lead by example, Mikey. I lead by example.
Good. Yeah. Great.
I did think about it. Really easy to
And some
Yeah, now there may be some of those that I'm checking on.